I have 5 free transfers, but despite that, I'm still activating my free hit in Game Week 8. Guys, welcome to my FPL Game Week 8 team selection. Make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get right into the video. Before we look at my free hit team, we're going to look at my actual team without any transfers made. And as you can see here, it looks pretty awful. There's a lot of players that are quite bad, on bad form, with bad fixture runs that I may want to get rid of. But there's also a lot of players here I want to keep that just have a bad fixture for this game week. The main culprits being Ndai, Bruno and Mbumo. There's a few more as well. For example, Senesi and Semenyo aren't great this game week because they're playing away to Palace, but in general, they're great players to hold on to. In fact, using a free hit to get rid of Semenyo could be quite risky, but I think it's the right play. I don't think he's going to do too well this game week. That could come back to bite me, but let's hope not. There are obviously some players here that kind of need to go permanently. You know, you got Watkins, you got Konza and Pedro Porro, for example. All of these players I don't really want to keep in my team, full stop. But like I said, there's a lot of players here with a bad game week that still look really good for the future. Like Mbumo, Bruno and Ndai all have a really tough game this game week. But if you look at the next 6 game weeks after, there's not a tough fixture in sight. They're pretty good and some of the best fixture runs in the league. So they're players I really want to hold on to. Anyway, we don't care about this team. Let's get right into my actual free hit team for game week 8. In goal, we are going with Donnarumma. Now, I was tempted to go Vicario, but I could afford the goalkeeper with the rest of the outfield players that I wanted in my team. So I thought, why not spend the extra 0.7 if I've got it in the bank? Because I do believe Man City have a really high chance for a clean sheet this game week. They are first in the clean sheet odds, so it makes sense to go with them. Even though Vicario has more potential for save points and bonus points, and Donnarumma, if he keeps a clean sheet, he's only really going to get 6 points. Very unlikely to get save points and bonus points. I still think it's a pretty safe 6 points. Looking to the rest of the defence, obviously we have Gabriel. That doesn't need much explaining. The Arsenal defence is incredibly solid. Gabriel's got chances for defcons and he's a big set piece threat, so it makes sense to go with Gabriel. The other 2 defenders though, they're quite cheap and you may be a little confused to see them because you may think the Sunderland defence or the Leeds defence isn't that good, but Leeds are 5th for expected clean sheets this season, so they are a pretty strong defence and they are playing against the worst team in the league in Burnley. So pick and Rodon, a cheap defender who can help me afford the rest of my attack, a player who's also really good for defcons, a player with high clean sheet potential. He is perfect for this team. And my Sunderland defender, only costing 4 million, is also really good value. I'm not going to try and pronounce his name. Sunderland, they're a mid-table team this season, okay? They're not the strongest defence like Leeds, but their defence is still better than half the teams in the league, which no one expected, but when you spend 180 mil, that's sort of what you get. So this guy playing home to Wolves, who are arguably the worst team in the league this season, is a recipe for some good points. I hope. I also have triple Burnley defence on the bench because why not? You know, I don't really believe in them to keep a clean sheet. They're the worst defence in the league, but I think it'd be quite funny if 3 of my Burnley defenders all kept a clean sheet. With that being said, I don't think Twanzebe even plays, so if I do get a Burnley clean sheet, it's only going to be 2 players that are hauling on my bench. Into midfield now. This is where we go incredibly differential. I've not owned Salah all season, and to be fair, Salah is quite high owned, so he's not really a differential. But I've gone with Salah because he's playing home to Man United and the Man United defence isn't great, and it's the perfect time to bring him in for a free hit because there's a lot of really good cheap options around him. And owning 2 big dogs like Salah, and obviously Haaland's going to be in this team as well, I've got the best players in FPL on my team, so hopefully either way I get a massive haul. Even if high-end players like Semenyo and Kudus do return, I've got Salah to cover for their points. As for captaincy, I'm still undecided, to be completely honest. I'm not 100% sure who I want to go with. Right now, I'm sticking with Haaland. We'll talk about that more later because we're not talking about the front 3 yet. Salah, he could be my captaincy option, but I'm going to wait until the deadline to actually make my final decision because it's quite tough and the swing could be massive. One of them could blank and one of them could return, so I really want to be captain in the right one. It's something I need to think about, and I've not thought that far ahead just yet. I'm also going super differential with Phil Foden, who may not even start because of Pep Roulette, but I believe he will start because Man City have injuries and he has been starting regularly. As for whether he actually gets points, I'm not too sure. He's not on the best form right now, but free hit is the perfect opportunity to bring Foden in, playing against a bad defence. Obviously, this one could come back to bite me massively. I'm choosing Foden over Semenyo. They're both a very similar price, and I can afford both in this free hit. Semenyo is on great form, but he's playing a fairly tough game. And you look to Phil Foden, he's on bad form, and he's nowhere near as good as Semenyo this year, but he's got a good fixture, and if he starts, I think he could maybe keep up with Semenyo, you know, ideally outscore Semenyo. That's what I think is going to happen if Phil Foden starts, and I'm confident he will start. He'll play about, 70 minutes, if I'm estimating correctly, but that could go wrong, Pep is an unpredictable man and he could choose to bench Phil Foden. Fingers crossed he doesn't. Either way, I'm going to take that risk by playing Phil Foden, unless I get some late team news and it turns out Phil Foden is going to be on the bench. If I know that for certain, I will switch him out for Semenyo. Sarr was always a must-have on this free hit. Sarr is amazing for underlying data. He keeps racking in the expected goals. He's like an expected goals magnet. As to whether he scores them, you know, sometimes he feels like he doesn't want to, sometimes he does. So hopefully when he's in my team for this one game week, he can. Playing home to Bournemouth isn't exactly easy. Like, Bournemouth are one of the best defenses in the league, but Crystal Palace are one of the best attacks in the league, and they're playing home. So it makes sense to go for a Crystal Palace attacker. I was thinking about Mateta instead, because Mateta is getting really, really high on the expected goals, but he's not finishing them whatsoever. His underperformance on the expected goals is pretty diabolical, and I don't want to bring in a player that's going to get high expected goals and not score any. I prefer Sarr because he's been really good this season. He's got 4 returns in his last 4 starts. The only time he started and not returned this season was in game week 1, which I believe was against Chelsea. So yeah, Sarr is really promising this game week. Not a lot of people own him, to my surprise. I thought more would own him, but then again, people don't really want to bring him in because he's playing away to Arsenal in game week 9. Which is my advantage because on free hit, I can bring him in without any ties to that Arsenal game. Finally, in midfield, I'm going to try and say his name right. I've got Okafor. I don't know how you say his name. I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone. This guy is a big risk. He's really cheap. And once again, like Foden, there is a small chance he doesn't start. But he's on really good form and he started the last 4 games. His expected goals are pretty high for a player of his price and the team he's playing for. So hopefully in this easy game against the worst defense in the league, he can rack up some more expected goals and put them away. He's had 2 big chances in the last 4 games and he scored them both. So hopefully he can bag me some points this game week as well. He has got some creative potential. He's created some big chances for his teammates in the last few games, but that's not why I'm bringing him in. It's just, you know, a bonus. If he does get an assist, then I'm happy about it. But mainly bringing him in for that goal scoring potential. Finally, we have the front 3, and you already know the first player in this free hit team was Erling Haaland. I already own him in my actual team, so there's no real change there, and it's the same with João Pedro. These two are very high-end players that I believe in a lot. Now, I do like to go differential on the free hit quite a lot, as you've seen with Phil Foden and Okafor, but Haaland and João Pedro are 2 players I think a lot of people are overlooking, and their ownership is really high. A lot of people still own João Pedro, so there's a lot of safety in holding João Pedro, but I'm not just holding him for that reason, just to be safe. Like, if I didn't believe in him, I wouldn't have him in my team. Much like Semenyo, you know, it's a big risk going without him, but I think it's the right choice to go with someone else. As for João Pedro alternatives, I don't like them as much. I prefer him over Enzo Fernandez and the likes of Igor Thiago and other forwards and other midfielders. So I'm happy to keep him in my team. You know, he's safe and I think he's quite overlooked. I think a lot of people selling him may come to regret it because that Forest defence is god-awful. Why I currently have the captain's armband on Haaland is because the Everton defence this season is worse than the Man United defence, and Haaland is racking up a lot more expected goals than Salah at the moment. So I'm leaning towards Haaland. I may look at some other people and see what they're saying out of who is the best captaincy option, because Salah would definitely be a great differential. But then again, I am a Man United fan, and I've taken 2 Man United players out on a free hit to bring in Salah. Do I really want to betray my club that much by captaining the talisman of the team that's playing against the club I support? You know, I don't really want to do that because I may end up watching Liverpool versus Man United and end up cheering for Liverpool because I want Salah to get points, and that's not what I want. I mean, I know they say you shouldn't let the club you support influence your FPL decisions, but sometimes they do. I can't help it. As for Jarrod Bowen, he was another must-have on this free hit. Even though he's not had a big chance or created a single big chance this season, he's still really promising. He's still got 3 goals. He's overperforming the expected goals quite a bit. And that's what we're used to. It's what he's been doing for the past few seasons. So there's no surprises there. As for him not having good underlying data, I feel like that's going to change. Playing against Brentford home is a really good fixture. They've got Nuno as the new manager, and we all know how good Nuno is. So with that new manager boost, I'm hoping West Ham have a good game, and I'm hoping Jarrod Bowen is at the centre of it all. There's just no other forward I'd want to bring in his place anyway. I was kind of struggling for extra midfielders and forwards in that sense. Like, I could bring in Semenyo, I could bring in Kudus, I could bring in some really safe plays instead of Jarrod Bowen, but I just believe in Jarrod Bowen more. Like, he's doing well this season, he's on good form, he always overperforms the expected goals, and the new manager bounce is a real thing. It happens to a lot of clubs, and I believe this is the perfect time to bring in Bowen, so that's what I'm doing. Once again, I could come back to regret it, but I like going quite differential on the free hit. But yeah, guys, that is the full team. It is subject to change, I guess. I'm pretty locked in, but if there's any, you know, last minute minutes doubts or there's some injury risks, I will change it around. And I will post a picture on Twitter if something does change before the deadline, just to keep you guys updated. But this is currently what it's looking like, and I very much doubt it's going to change because I've been thinking about it for a little while, and I believe this is the best team for me. It could go horribly wrong and get me a big red arrow because I'm going super risky, but That's what FPL is about. I try not to let ownership affect my decision-making process too much. I think I'd rather get it wrong, believing in what I want to go for, instead of getting it wrong and following what everyone else does, because that's just going to annoy me and make me feel disappointed in myself, if that makes sense. Anyway, that's enough rambling on, guys. If you did make it this far, thank you very much for watching. You are greatly appreciated, and I will see you all in the next video.